The town of Willow Creek wasn't the biggest place in the state, nor the busiest. Tucked between rolling green hills and dense woods, it was the sort of community people drove past without ever realizing what they were missing. But for those who lived there, Willow Creek had one treasure that made it truly special: the lake. The lake shimmered like glass beneath the sun, its surface mirroring the clouds and the leafy arms of the trees that leaned toward it. Ducks paddled lazily across the water, children skipped stones along its smooth surface, and fishermen often lined the banks at dawn, their silhouettes painted in soft gold by the morning light. In winter, when the lake froze, families laced up skates and glided across its frozen skin, laughter echoing into the crisp air. It wasn't just a body of water, it was the soul of the town. For Mark Dawson, the lake was also a dream come true. Mark had spent years saving every spare dollar he could from his job at the local hardware store. After his wife passed away unexpectedly 3 years earlier, he'd been left to raise his 2 children, Emma, 10, and Ryan, 8, on his own. Life hadn't been easy, but Mark had promised them a fresh start, somewhere peaceful, somewhere where they could heal. When he found a modest 3-bedroom house sitting right along the lake's edge, it felt like fate. "Dad, look, we can see the water from a porch." Emma had squealed the day they moved in, racing up the wooden steps and pressing her face to the railing. Ryan had dropped his backpack in the grass and ran straight toward the shore, shoes sinking into the soft mud. Mark had stood there, watching them, his chest heavy but warm. This was what he wanted for them: safety, space, a home with more than just walls. It had heart, but every paradise has its gatekeepers. At Willow Creek, that gatekeeper was Linda Prescott. Linda was the president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, a title she wielded with pride and some wispier. Mark shook her hand politely, though her grip was so firm it felt like she was testing him. "Thank you," he said. "It's a beautiful community. My kids are already in love with the lake." Linda's eyes flicked toward Emma and Ryan, who were splashing at the edge of the water, their laughter carrying across the surface. Instead of smiling, Linda pursed her lips. "Yes, the lake is our pride and joy," she said, "which is exactly why we have rules in place to protect it. Children must be supervised at all times within 10 feet of the shoreline. Swimming is allowed only in designated areas, and absolutely no fishing without an HOA permit." Mark blinked, caught off guard. "They're just playing," he said gently. Linda's smile was thin and cold. "I'm sure you'll want to familiarize yourself with the regulations. I'll have a copy delivered to your door. We take the preservation of this lake very seriously." With that, she gave a curt nod and marched away, heels stabbing the grass as if punishing it. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, Mark sat on the porch with a cup of coffee. The moon hung low over the lake, silver light rippling across the water. He thought about Linda's words: rules, permits, restrictions. He wasn't against structure. He wanted the lake to be safe and clean too, but there had been something unsettling in her tone. It wasn't just about protection. It was about control. Over the next few weeks, Mark settled into life at Willow Creek. The kids made friends with other children in the neighborhood, and Mark found himself enjoying small conversations with neighbors as he mowed his lawn or walked to the dock. But Linda was always there, hovering like a shadow. She fined the family across the street for leaving their garbage bins out too long. She reprimanded a teenager for riding his bike too fast down the lane. And when Emma and Ryan built a small sandcastle near the shoreline one sunny afternoon, Linda appeared almost instantly. "This is an A.B." For the first few weeks, Mark did his best to keep his head down. He followed the rules Linda had so forcefully outlined, or at least tried to. He didn't want trouble. He had moved to Willow Creek for peace, for a place where his children could laugh without the weight of grief dragging them down. But Linda made peace impossible. It started small, a yellow slip taped to his front door. "Your grass exceeds HOA height standards by 1 inch." Mark stared at the note in disbelief. He had just mowed the lawn 2 days earlier. Then came the warning about leaving a canoe tied to the dock overnight. And then another note, this one about excessive noise when Ryan and Emma played tag near the water with their new friends. "She's watching us," Emma whispered one evening as the family sat at the dinner table. She glanced toward the window, where Linda's house stood across the lake, her curtains always drawn like suspicious eyes. She's always watching. Mark forced a reassuring smile, though his jaw was tight. Don't worry about her. She doesn't run our lives. But it wasn't just his family. Linda's reach extended across the entire neighborhood. One Saturday morning, Mark was repairing a loose step on his porch when his neighbor, Carl Henderson, wandered over. Carl was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s, with sunburned skin and a laugh that carried across the yard like thunder. He dropped heavily onto Mark's porch railing. "You've had your first run-in with Linda, huh?" he asked with a grin. "More like my fifth," Mark muttered. Carl chuckled. "Welcome to the club. She fined me last year for painting my shutters the wrong shade of blue. Said it didn't fit the community aesthetic. Can you believe that?" Mark shook his head. "It's exhausting. She acts like she owns the whole lake." "Well, she doesn't," Carl said. "But she sure wants everyone to think she does. Best advice? Don't let her push you around." Mark nodded, but deep down he knew that was easier said than.